They do all these background checks, and we still get strange, disrespectful neighbors. Apparently, they need to stop doing background checks and start doing the mental state of people because, yeah, you haven't been to jail. But that doesn't mean that you're not a part of an unsolved mystery somewhere, that you're not plotting, scheming and plotting. And Natalie had to find that out the hard way. Now, Natalie was moving into her new apartment because she was going through a breakup with her boyfriend. And she was going through a breakup with her boyfriend because she lied about being pregnant. Yeah. She wanted to be in motherhood so bad, she lied about being pregnant. And technically, she is a mother because she's a mother lie. Okay. But anyways, her boyfriend told her, listen, it's over because if you lie about being pregnant, you'll pretty much lie about anything. So Natalie wasn't too much worried about it because she had a job. She didn't have a good job, but it wasn't a bad job either. So she was able to move into an apartment. It wasn't a good apartment, but it wasn't a bad apartment either. Now, the first day that Natalie started moving into this apartment, a lot of strange things had started happening. As her and her friend Kimberly was moving all her stuff into her apartment, she noticed that her strange neighbor was standing in his doorway eating chocolate pudding, just staring at them. He didn't ask them if they needed some help. He didn't say, hey. He was just standing there staring as they was moving stuff into her apartment. And every time that her and Kimberly would go up and down the stairs to get some more boxes and bring them into her apartment, the strange neighbor would be standing at the top of the stairs eating chocolate pudding, just staring. Now, normally, Kimberly wouldn't be freaking out because Kimberly is the friend that always tries to calm Natalie down and say, Natalie, you're paranoid. You overthinking it. But at this moment, Kimberly was like, that's pretty strange. He's pretty strange. And they were so freaked out about it that after they moved in the boxes to Natalie's apartment, they went to the leasing office to ask questions about this strange neighbor. Once they got to the leasing office, the people there told them, like, listen, hey, he's just an introverted guy. If being an introvert is a crime, then he'll be guilty as charged. But other than that, we haven't received any complaints about him. He never has loud music. He never has any company over. He just pretty much stays to himself. So after they left the leasing office, Kimberly told Natalie, hey, just relax, calm down. Maybe we're overthinking it. Maybe he's just an introverted guy that don't like to talk. Hey, maybe he got social anxiety. So as the weeks went on, stranger and stranger things kept happening with Natalie and her neighbor. And so she decided to call her friend Kimberly and tell her about it. Kimberly said, what strange things has been happening? What are you talking about? Natalie says, well, for starters, one day I was leaving my apartment and I could tell he was watching me through his peephole. So Kimberly's like, how do you know he's watching you through his peephole? Natalie says, because as I was walking out of my apartment, as soon as I locked my door, I felt somebody watching me. So I slowly walked over to his door and put my eye in his peephole. And that's when I could see him watching. So Kimberly was like, hold on. Because see, we can't even say he was watching you right then because you can't see nobody through the peephole if you're on the outside. So we really can't say he was watching you right then. So Natalie said, that's not it. One day I was coming home late night from work, and as I was walking up the stairs, I noticed that the strange neighbor was standing underneath the stairway in the shadows, just watching me. And as soon as we made eye contact, he stepped out the shadows and he started walking up the stairs real fast. He was walking up the stairs so fast, Natalie said she had to take off running because he was about to catch up with her. So she took off running, ran into her apartment and locked the door. So Kimberly was like, yeah, that is strange. I'm kind of worried about your safety at this point. And then Natalie said, yeah, but that's not it. That's not even it. She said the very next morning when I woke up and I went to fix me some breakfast, there was a note that somebody had slid up under my door. And the note read, I see you watching, so keep looking because I'm watching. And the strange thing about it, it was written with an old school typewriter. So Kimberly was like, you know what? I think it'll be a good idea if you come stay with me for a couple of days because I'm kind of in fear for your safety right now. I don't think it's a good idea that you stay there by yourself. So Natalie was like, yeah, that's a good idea. So they finally meet up after work and they go to Natalie's house to pack some of her stuff so she can stay with Kimberly for a few days. Now, as soon as they make it up the stairs to Natalie's apartment and they get ready to unlock the door, here's the strange neighbor walking up slowly behind them, staring, eating chocolate pudding. So Natalie and Kimberly just kind of froze. They stuck. So as the strange neighbor was walking into his apartment, the neighbor that stayed on the right side of Natalie walks out. And she says, that's weird. I never see him outside. Natalie said, what do you mean? He's outside all the time. It could be day, it could be night. He's always outside. I always see him. The nosy neighbor says, no. Well, he used to be outside all the time, but after that lady that used to live in your apartment went missing, I haven't seen him outside at all. It's like he kind of disappeared too. What do you mean the lady that used to live in the apartment went missing? She said she went missing. It's like she disappeared off the face of the earth. No one knows where she went at. So Natalie found that kind of strange because she didn't even know about no lady that went missing in that apartment before she moved in. So she started asking this neighbor questions. She like, well, how do you know she disappeared? Maybe she moved out with her boyfriend. Maybe she moved out of town. And the neighbor said no, because her parents came by asking questions looking for her. They couldn't find her. It's like she disappeared. So Natalie was like, what you mean disappeared? She said, disappear, honey. Poof, be gone. Disappeared. So now Natalie and Kimberly are just looking at each other. So Natalie kept trying to ask the neighbor some more questions, but then the neighbor says, bye, honey, I'm late for bingo. I gotta go. And she just turns around and started walking off. But once she got to the top of the stairs, she turned around and she said, bye, Natalie. Remember, don't go meddling in anyone's business. Now, once that happened, Natalie and Kimberly were surprised. They hurry up and get in Natalie's apartment and start packing up her stuff. So once they left Natalie's apartment, Kimmy tells Natalie, hey, I think it's a good idea that we go, make a police report or something like this, because this is getting kind of strange. And now that we know a lady went missing that used to live in that apartment before you, I think we should go and talk to the police, just to be safe. Natalie was like, yeah, I 100% agree. So they go to the police station and they end up meeting with this detective named Justin. Now, once they tell Justin everything that's been going on, about how he's watching her, about how he was under the stairs, about the weird note, the detectives tell her straight up, well, ma'am, to be honest, there's nothing I can do to arrest him because technically he hasn't done anything illegal yet. So far, you just have told me that he's been watching you, and that's not illegal, unfortunately. So Kimmy is like, well, what about the lady that went missing in that apartment that used to live there before her? Is that true? Did a lady go missing? Has she just disappeared? And the detective was like, yes, that is true. But we did interview everybody in that apartment complex, and he's not a suspect. So there's nothing that we can do. So basically, they left the police department. But once they left the police department, they was just freaking out. Natalie was freaking out. And Kimmy was like, you know what? I think maybe we are overthinking. Because if that strange neighbor really had something to hide, if the police really thought something about him, I think the conversation would have went a little different. So maybe we are overthinking it and we just need to let it go. But Natalie was like, no, I feel it in my soul. Something is wrong with that neighbor. Something, he's up to something. I know it. I know. So once they get to Kimmy house, Kimmy is like, you know what? Let's just relax, hang out and chill. I think that maybe we should just go out tonight, have a few drinks and kind of get our mind off of everything. So Natalie was like, yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. So they decided to go to this lounge, get something to eat. They having some drinks. And next thing you know, they dancing, they having a good time. So before you knew it, it was already 1:30 in the morning. So Natalie says, listen, Kimmy, let's go because the drinks are starting to kick in. And Kimmy is like, sure, we done had a good time. Let's go. So they walk outside and they standing there for about 2 minutes laughing and joking. And Natalie is like, girl, I know the drinks was kicking in because I can no longer hold my stomach in, okay? So Kimmy and Natalie, they laughing it off. And then out of nowhere, Natalie says, oh my God, oh my God. Kimmy says, what? What's going on? What's happening? And she points. She said, there's a strange neighbor over there across the street. And lo and behold, the strange neighbor was across the street from where they was at, just sitting in his car, not trying to look at their way. He was just looking straight ahead. But it was a strange neighbor. So Kimmy was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this. What is he doing? What's about to happen? So Natalie was like, I'm fed up. I'm fed up. She runs over there to his car, starts bamming on his window. Bam, bam, bam. You creepo. What do you want with me? Leave me alone, you creepo. You creepo. Kimmy is running behind her. Natalie, come here. Come here. The strange neighbor rolled down his window and he just says, you a pretty lady. Why are you acting this way? You a pretty lady. By this time, Kimmy done made it to where Natalie's at. And she's like, come on, let's go, let's go. Now, while all this is happening, their Uber done pulled up. So Kimmy was able to pull Natalie away and they get in the Uber. Now, once they get in the Uber, they all excited. They can't let it go. Natalie's screaming. The Uber's like, hold on, what's going on? Do I need to call the cops? Do I need to call the cops? Kimmy was like, no, don't worry about it. We already been to the cops. So they end up telling the Uber driver everything that's been going on. Now, once they tell the Uber driver everything that's been going on, the Uber driver says, he's a creep. He's a creep. And be careful because sometimes the police don't investigate and you don't want to be a victim. Sometimes you got to take matters into your own hands. Now, once the Uber driver said that, Natalie was like, you know what? You right. You right. Hey, can we change our destination? The Uber driver said, yes, you just change it in the app and I'll take you wherever you want to go. So Kimmy was like, hold on. What do you mean? Where are we going? Natalie says, we're going to my house. Kimmy said, for what? For what? Natalie is like, I have to go. I have to find out who he is. We went to the police. They won't tell us his name. We went to the leasing office. They won't tell us his name. I'm finna go inside his apartment. Kimberly is like, what are you talking about? You going inside his apartment? She said, I'm going to go in there and find out who this creep is. I need to protect myself. So Kimmy was like, first of all, how do you know he's not going to be there by the time we get there? Natalie said, because I'm sure he's still at that bar acting like he's not following us when he really is. Then Kimmy says, well, how are you even going to get inside his apartment? Are you crazy? Natalie says, girl, them antique apartments, I can get in his apartment easy with a debit card. Because one time I locked my keys inside my apartment and I was able to open the door with a card. Trust me, I can get in his apartment easy. So Kimmy is like, I don't know. So Natalie is like, okay, I'll compromise with you. If we get to my apartment and he's there, we'll just go to your apartment and we won't talk about it ever again. We'll let it go. But if we get to my apartment and he's not there yet, we're going in. So Kimberly said, okay, fine. Because at this point, she really thought that he was going to be there by the time they made it to her apartment. So while they was on the way to Natalie's apartment, Natalie was planning out how everything was going to go. She says, Kimmy, once we get there, if he's not there, I need you to wait in the middle of the stairs, look out for him, and just run up the stairs whenever he pulls into the parking lot so I can get out of his apartment real quick. So Kimmy said, okay, sure, that's the plan. So they get to the apartment and he's not there. So they put their plan into motion. As soon as they step outside the Uber, Kimmy is like, I'm scared. Natalie says, I'm brave. Girl, we got to do this. If you love me, you will do this. So they start walking up the stairs and Kimmy wait right at the middle of the stairs. And Natalie says, remember, as soon as you see him come in the parking lot, you got to run up the stairs and let me know because I got to be able to make it out his apartment. Kimmy said, but what if I don't see him in time? What if I mistakenly miss him or something? Natalie said, girl, if you love my life, you will see him when you need to see him. So Natalie started running up the stairs. As she's running up the stairs, she's digging through her purse looking for her credit card. She finally make it to the strange neighbor door. Now, she was so nervous and she was shaking so bad, she wasn't able to open the door as soon as she thought she would, but she finally got the door open. And when she walked into his apartment, it's like she stepped inside of the 90s. Everything in his apartment was old. The furniture was old. He had an old microwave. He had an old couch. He had an old coffee table. And then she saw it. She saw a typewriter. And she knew then that he was the one that had wrote that note and put it up under her door. Now she kept looking around because once she saw that typewriter, she needed to find more evidence that he was stalking her. So she found some gloves, she found some binoculars, she found some army fatigues, and just as she was about to go in his room, Kimmy started running up the stairs screaming, he's coming. So Natalie started panicking. She looked around and she just grabbed a piece of mail, hurried up, ran out of his apartment, and they both ran into Natalie's apartment and locked the door. As soon as they locked the door, they was looking at the peephole, looking for the strange neighbor to walk into his apartment. And sure enough, here comes the strange neighbor walking up. And before he walked into his apartment, he turned around, stared at Natalie's door for about 10 seconds, and then he finally walked into his apartment. So Kimmy was like, listen, the Uber's on the way. I already ordered the Uber. Natalie is freaking out. She's like, listen, I know he's the one that typed that note. I know he's the one who typed that note because I saw an old typewriter. I saw binocular. I saw army fatigues. I saw gloves. And she just freaking out. It's hard for her to calm down. And finally, the Uber says they outside. So Kimmy's like, listen, calm down. We got to get out of here. Let's just go to the Uber, go to my house, and everything will be fine. So they finally build up the courage to walk out the door. As soon as they walk out of Natalie's door, Natalie's shaking so bad she can barely lock her door. But she locks her door and they start walking. They walking fast. They walking so fast it's almost like they're jogging. As soon as they get to the end of the hallway at the top of the stairs, they turn around and there's the strange neighbor standing in the middle of the hallway eating chocolate pudding. Once they see him standing at the end of the hallway, they just took off running down the stairs and jumped in the Uber. So once they get in the Uber, they feel so relieved and they finally make it to Kimmy's house. Now, once they get to Kimmy's house, they stay up all night researching the strange neighbor. But the strange thing about it is they can't find anything on this strange neighbor. They have his full name because Natalie took a piece of mail, but they can't find no social media. They can't find anything when they put it in these search engine sites, just trying to research him. The only thing they found is an 80-year-old man with the same name. So that just proves their point. At this point, they believe that the strange neighbor is living under a fake identity because why there's no information on this guy. So Natalie tells Kimmy, listen, I'm never going back there. At this point, I need to move in with you. So Kimmy is like, I agree with you, girl. You're not safe. You shouldn't go there. She was like, listen, we'll go to work like normal. On the weekend, I'll go to your house. I'll help you move out all your stuff and you can just move in with me. So finally the weekend came and it came time for them to go to Natalie's house and move out all her stuff. So they go, they rent a U-Haul and they pull up in Natalie's apartment. As soon as they pull up in the apartment, walking up the stairs, they run into the nosy neighbor. And the nosy neighbor say, hey, Natalie, where you been? I thought you disappeared like the lady that lived in the apartment before you. And Natalie said, oh no, I'm never going to disappear like that. I protect myself at all costs. I'm more cautious. And then the nosy neighbor said, I don't know, honey. You might want it to happen to you. Natalie said, what you mean? What are you talking about? I don't want to disappear. I don't want somebody to kidnap me and do God knows what to me. The nosy neighbor said, no. Come to find out, she didn't disappear at all. She actually eloped and got married to a rich new boyfriend that she met. So Natalie said, what do you mean? How do you know? She hasn't disappeared. How do you know she hasn't been kidnapped? She said, well, I told you her parents came by after she went missing looking for her. Well, I exchanged numbers with them and I've been calling them ever since to check up on them and see did they ever find her daughter. And I called them the other day and they told me, yeah, she was found alive and well. That she actually met a new boyfriend who had a lot of money and she went and moved in with him and got married. So she actually didn't disappear. She went and eloped with her new rich boyfriend. So Natalie and Kimmy are just looking at each other. They couldn't believe it. Yeah, I've been looking for you because I've been trying to tell you. I've been trying to tell you everything that's going on. So I just typed up a little note and left it up under your door. Natalie said, you typed up a note? What do you mean you typed up a note? She said, yeah, well, I can't write a note because, you know, I'm so old and my hands, they shake so bad it'll just be scribble scrabble. So I like to type little notes on my typewriter. And I typed up a note and I put it up under your door. Go on in there, you will find it. And it got that detective number on there that's looking for you, okay? So Natalie was like, wait. So what do you mean? What do you mean? So the nosy neighbor was like, darling, I gotta go. I'm late for bingo. I'll talk to you later. So Natalie and Kimmy just started staring at each other. So by this time, Natalie said, listen, let's just pack up my stuff, get out of here so we can leave this all behind. Kimmy was like, good idea. So they get to Natalie's apartment, they pack up her stuff, and they start walking downstairs with the first set of boxes. They walk downstairs, they put them in the U-Haul, everything is fine. Now, by the time they make it up the stairs and get to Natalie's apartment, there's the strange neighbor standing in the doorway eating chocolate pudding. Just staring. So Natalie and Kimmy look at each other. They hurry up and run in Natalie's apartment, start grabbing some more boxes, packing them up real quick. And she's like, girl, listen, let's just pack up a few more boxes and we'll leave the rest of the stuff here. At this point, I don't care about it. So they hurry up, they pack up the rest of the boxes. By the time they walk downstairs, the detective Justin is stepping outside of his car. And he says, hey, Natalie, where are you going? Natalie set down the box and said, with you, I guess. He said, yeah. Looks like it. So apparently, the strange neighbor didn't write that note. The nosy neighbor did. And remember that time Natalie said she was coming home from work and the strange neighbor was up under the stairs in the shadows? Apparently, he was walking upstairs and he had dropped his keys. So he went under the stairs to pick them up. And Natalie just so happened to be coming home and they made eye contact. And he picked up his keys and he started walking fast into his apartment. And Natalie started running. And remember that time when he was sitting across the street from the bar that they had just came out of? It's because he's an Uber driver and he was waiting for his passenger to get in the car. And because he's an Uber driver, he has cameras in his car. So Natalie running up into his car, banging on his window is all recorded. And he also got cameras all inside of his apartments because ever since that incident happened 10 years ago when his wife was unalived by an intruder that came into his his house, he keep cameras all over his house. And he also told the detective that he likes to stand outside the door and eat chocolate pudding because chocolate pudding was his wife's favorite dessert. And every time they used to go to the grocery store and buy chocolate pudding, his wife would stand outside the door and watch him bring in the groceries. So he likes to stand outside and eat chocolate pudding because it reminds him of his wife. So the strange neighbor is not the strange neighbor at all, but he has been a victim of the real strange neighbor, which is Natalie. Moral of the story: always be alert, always protect yourself, but never make someone else your victim because you think you're protecting yourself.